Those of you who have come here today, whether consciously or unconsciously, have come because somewhere in your experience there has arisen a desire for peace, for safety, for assurance. Perhaps you have called it freedom from anxiety, perhaps relief from pressure, perhaps rest for the mind or heart, but behind every such desire there is only one longing, the longing to rest in God. Now, let us be very clear at the beginning. The struggle for peace is the very thing that prevents peace. The effort to feel calm is the very activity that keeps calm from being realized. As long as we are trying to do something in order to attain peace, we are still assuming that peace is something we must achieve, something we must earn, something that depends upon our personal effort, discipline, or control. And yet the Master has already told us otherwise. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. If peace is given, then it is not achieved. If peace is bestowed, then it is not manufactured. And if peace is of God, then it cannot be produced by the human mind. Most people, when they feel anxiety, immediately begin to wrestle with it. They try to silence the thoughts, correct the emotions, regulate the breathing, calm the nerves, and while these things may offer temporary relief, they do not touch the root of the difficulty. For anxiety is not the problem. Anxiety is the symptom. The problem lies deeper. It lies in the belief that we are separate from God and must manage life by our own strength. Scripture states it very simply, without me, ye can do nothing. That is not a condemnation. It is a revelation. It is not meant to humble us through fear, but to free us from a burden we were never meant to carry. When we accept the belief that we must take care of ourselves, protect ourselves, secure ourselves, and maintain ourselves, we have already stepped outside the consciousness of divine safety. We have been taught, consciously or unconsciously, to live as if life were something we must survive. We wake in the morning already bracing ourselves for the day. We plan, we anticipate, we guard, we defend, and then we wonder why the mind is restless, why the body is tense, why the heart feels unsafe. We have assumed a responsibility that does not belong to us. Take therefore no thought for your life, Jesus said, not because life is unimportant, but because life is God. Which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit unto his stature? And again, your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. If this is true, and it is, then anxiety is not only unnecessary, it is a form of unbelief. But let us not condemn ourselves for this. Let us not add guilt to fear. The human sense has lived this way for generations, and it seems natural. Yet today we are being invited into a higher consciousness, a consciousness in which peace is not sought, but recognized. Here is the great truth with which we must begin. The peace you are seeking is already present. The safety you long for is already established. The assurance you desire is already functioning. It does not come to you. It does not enter you. It does not descend upon you. It is within you, because God is within you. The kingdom of God is within you, not approaching you, not reserved for a future time, within you now. And so our work is not to overcome anxiety, nor to suppress fear, nor to discipline the mind into silence. Our work is much simpler and much more radical. It is to withdraw from the belief that the personal self has anything to do with sustaining life. It is to yield the false sense of authorship, the false sense of control, the false sense of responsibility. When the psalmist says, "Be still and know that I am God," he is not giving us a relaxation technique. He is revealing a spiritual law. Be still, cease striving, cease planning, cease protecting, cease interfering, and know what? Know that I am God, not you, not your mind, not your emotions, not your body. I am God. This is the beginning of safety. Not the absence of problems, but the presence of God consciously realized. Not the quieting of circumstances, but the quieting of personal effort. Not a mind at rest because it has control, but a heart at rest because it has surrendered control. And so we begin not by asking God to give us peace, but by acknowledging the truth. Father, thou hast never left me. Thou hast never withdrawn thy presence. Thou hast never ceased to be my life. We begin by admitting gently and humbly, of myself I can do nothing, but thou doest all things. This admission is not weakness. It is the doorway to strength. It is not resignation. It is liberation. The moment we stop struggling to be safe, we discover that safety has always been underneath are the everlasting arms. Not tomorrow, not when conditions improve, underneath now. Now, as we move deeper into this subject, we must face something that is rarely spoken of openly. Many people are not afraid of noise. They are afraid of stillness. They are not troubled by activity, but by the thought of stopping. Silence feels threatening to the human sense, not because silence is dangerous, but because silence exposes the belief that we are living by our own power. The human mind has learned to associate safety with movement. As long as it is thinking, planning, analyzing, correcting, and anticipating, it feels that it is doing something to protect itself. And so when stillness approaches, the mind protests. It produces restlessness, discomfort, even fear. It whispers, if you stop, something will go wrong. But this voice is not wisdom. It is habit. It is not intuition. It is conditioning. Let us understand this clearly. Stillness is not emptiness. Stillness is fullness realized. Stillness is not the absence of life. It is the awareness of life. It is not a void. It is presence revealed. In him we live and move and have our being. If this is true, and it is, then stillness cannot be lifeless. It is the recognition of the life that has always been living us. When Elijah sought God, there was wind and earthquake and fire, but the Lord was not in them. And afterward came the still small voice. Not a shout, not a command, not an emotional surge, but a quiet knowing. God does not announce himself to the senses. God reveals himself to consciousness when the clamor of personal effort subsides. Many believe that if the mind becomes quiet, something terrible will surface: unresolved pain, fear, or loss. But what actually surfaces is not danger, it is truth. The reason stillness feels unsafe to the human sense is that stillness dissolves illusion. It removes the scaffolding of false identity. It takes away the belief that I am the doer and reveals gently but unmistakably that the Father within me doeth the works. This is why anxiety often intensifies when we first attempt to be still. The personal sense feels itself losing authority. But let us not resist this. Let us not try to escape it. Let us simply recognize what is happening. Anxiety is not increasing because something is wrong. It is surfacing because something false is being uncovered. Jesus said, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." But truth does not always feel comfortable to the ego. Freedom comes when the lie is seen for what it is. And the great lie is this, that you are alone, separate, and responsible for sustaining yourself. Stillness removes that lie, not by argument, not by force, but by presence. In stillness, we begin to sense that there is something here, something functioning, something aware. We may not name it at first. We may not understand it, but we feel it, a quiet stability, a subtle assurance, a sense that life is not fragile after all. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Notice that the promise is not conditional. It does not say, fear not when circumstances improve, or fear not when you feel calm. It says, I am with thee. The presence of God precedes the disappearance of fear. Fear fades as presence is recognized. And so we do not enter stillness to escape noise. We enter stillness to recognize reality. We are not trying to silence the mind. We are allowing the mind to discover that it is not in charge. We are not pushing thoughts away. We are letting them lose their authority. In this way, stillness becomes safe not because the world has changed, but because our standpoint has shifted. We are no longer standing on the unstable ground of personal effort. We are standing quietly and confidently on the rock. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Not because I have planned well, not because I have secured my future, but because the Lord is my shepherd. When this is glimpsed, even faintly, the fear of silence begins to dissolve. We realize that stillness is not the end of us. It is the end of the struggle. It is not disappearance. It is arrival. And from this recognition, we are now ready to go further, to enter consciously that place which Scripture calls the secret place of the Most High. Now we come to that which lies at the very heart of this teaching, and indeed at the heart of all spiritual living, the secret place of the Most High. This is not a poetic phrase. It is not a promise reserved for saints or mystics. It is a statement of spiritual fact, available to every individual who is willing to withdraw attention from appearances and rest in God awareness. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Notice that the promise is not made to those who occasionally visit, nor to those who hope, nor to those who believe intellectually. It is made to those who dwell. Dwelling is a state of consciousness. It is not a posture of the body, nor a withdrawal from the world, but an inward abiding. The secret place is not hidden because it is distant. It is hidden because it is inward. It is not entered by effort, nor by technique, nor by repetition of words. It is entered by relinquishment, by the gentle surrender of the belief that the outer world governs life. When we cease to look outward for safety, we discover that safety has always been present within. Jesus gave us the instruction plainly. When thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. This shutting of the door is not physical. It is the closing of the door of sense testimony. It is the withdrawal of faith from what the eyes see, the ears hear, and the mind interprets. It is the turning away from the report of fear to the awareness of God. Here, in this inner sanctuary, we are no longer concerned with conditions. We are not asking whether the world is safe. We are not measuring threats, calculating risks, or preparing defenses. We are resting in the realization that God is omnipresent, and that means fully present here where we are. Lo, I am with you always, not after prayer, not when you succeed in being still, always. And if God is present, then safety is present, because God is the only power. There is no other power to threaten, oppose, or disrupt the divine order. This is the great shift that takes place as we enter the secret place. We stop asking, how can I be protected? And begin to realize there is nothing here that needs protection. We stop saying, what if something goes wrong? And begin to know where God is, nothing can go wrong. In this inner dwelling, the body relaxes not because it has been commanded to do so, but because it senses the withdrawal of fear. The mind grows quiet not because it has been disciplined, but because it has lost its false authority. The heart grows light not because circumstances have changed, but because reliance has shifted. The eternal God is thy refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms. Refuge does not mean escape. It means abiding. It means that wherever you are, whatever you face, whatever appears on the human scene, there is an underlying presence, sustaining, governing, and maintaining harmony. Here we begin to understand why the promise of immunity in the 91st Psalm is not given to man whose breath is in his nostrils, but to those who dwell in God consciousness. The secret place is not a shield that God places around the personal self. It is the disappearance of the belief that we are a personal self separated from God. As we rest here, even briefly, something remarkable happens. We are no longer trying to feel safe. We simply are. The sense of urgency dissolves. The need to manage subsides. There is a quiet knowing that life is not precarious. It is governed. And this knowing does not come with fanfare. It comes gently, almost unnoticed. It may appear as a subtle peace, a steadying of thought, a sense of being held, or it may come without sensation at all. But it comes because it is revelation, not emotion. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Stayed, not jumping, not wandering, not oscillating between hope and fear. Stayed, anchored, resting. This is inner safety, not a feeling, but a fact, not something we create, but something we consent to. And once we have glimpsed this, even for a moment, we begin to see that the body and mind, which once seemed to dictate our experience, are not powers at all. They are instruments responding to the consciousness that governs them. And so, from this place of inner refuge, we are ready to look more closely at the belief that has so long claimed authority over us, the belief that the body, the nerves, and the mind possess power. Now, having entered, even in some small degree, the secret place of the Most High, we are prepared to face one of the most persistent illusions of human experience, the belief that the body, and particularly the nervous system, possesses power over our life. This belief has become so universal, so accepted, that few ever stop to question it, yet it is this very belief that lies at the root of fear, anxiety, tension, and disease. The human sense tells us that nerves react, that chemicals fluctuate, that the body responds independently of consciousness. It tells us that fear originates in the body, and that peace must therefore be restored through bodily manipulation. But this teaching reverses the divine order. It places effect where cause belongs. It attributes intelligence to matter, and then wonders why matter appears unstable. Scripture has never supported this view. Nowhere are we told that nerves govern man, or that the body directs life. On the contrary, we are told, "Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost?" A temple does not direct the presence within it. It houses it, it expresses it, it responds to it. The body has no mind of its own. The nerves have no intelligence. They do not decide when to tighten or relax, when to tremble or rest. They respond to consciousness. And when consciousness is burdened with fear, responsibility, and self-government, the body faithfully reflects that burden. It is not rebelling, it is obeying. This is why we do not fight bodily sensations. We do not argue with them, nor attempt to suppress them. We simply remove from them the authority we have mistakenly given them. We cease believing that they have power to tell us the truth about life. Paul understood this when he wrote, "To be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace." He was not condemning the body. He was exposing a false standpoint. A mind that believes life is in matter will experience instability. A consciousness that knows life as God will experience peace. When anxiety arises in the body, perhaps as a tightening of the chest, a racing of the heart, or a sense of unease, we do not say, "Something is wrong with me." We say, gently and without resistance, "This is not power, this is not authority, this is not life." And then we turn not to correction, but to recognition. God is my life. God is my breath. God is my peace. We are not affirming these truths to convince the body. We are acknowledging them to restore our own awareness. The body will follow because it must. It has no alternative. Jesus demonstrated this mastery consistently. He was not subject to fatigue, fear, or physical law because he did not accept the premise that matter governed life. When the storm arose, he did not calm his nerves. He stilled the storm. When disease appeared, he did not treat symptoms. He revealed the presence of God. "The Father within me, he doeth the works." And here we must be very careful. This is not a call to deny the body, nor to pretend sensations do not exist. It is a call to see them in their proper place. Sensations are effects, not causes. They are messages, not masters. And when we stop reacting to them with fear, they lose their voice. In the presence of God, there can be no fear. In the presence of God, there can be no disorder. In the presence of God, there is only harmony. And God is present where you are. The very place whereon thou standest is holy ground. As this realization deepens, something wonderful happens. The body begins to rest, not because it has been commanded to relax, but because it is no longer being driven by fear. The nervous system settles, not because it has been controlled, but because it has been relieved of a false burden. It is no longer asked to protect life. Life is recognized as God. "Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee." Notice again, we are not told to manage the burden better. We are told to cast it away, to relinquish it entirely. The burden of self-maintenance does not belong to us. It never did. And so we let the body be. We let the nerves be. We do not watch them, analyze them, or monitor them. We simply return again and again to the awareness of God as the only life, the only intelligence, the only power. In this way, the the body gradually takes its rightful place not as a dictator, but as an instrument. And as the instrument yields to the consciousness that governs it, we are prepared to take the next and most essential step in this unfoldment, to be still and let God be God. Now we come to the heart of this entire way of living, the point upon which everything turns. Without this, all that has been said remains theory. With this, it becomes living experience. The command is simple, yet it is the most difficult for the human sense to obey. Be still and know that I am God. This is not a poetic invitation. It is not a suggestion for rest or a method of relaxation. It is a divine directive. Be still, not merely in body, but in will. Be still in the mind's planning, in the heart's anxious striving, in the personal sense of responsibility. Be still and let God assume the place that belongs to God. As long as we are trying to help God, guide God, remind God, or assist God in the conduct of our life, we are not still. As long as we are deciding how things must work out, when relief must come, or what form supply must take, we are still interfering. And interference, however well-intentioned, is resistance. There comes a moment in every spiritual life when one must relinquish the final illusion, the belief that surrender is passive. Surrender is not resignation. It is not giving up hope. It is not a turning away from life. Surrender is the conscious acknowledgement that God alone is life, intelligence, and power, and that there is nothing left for the personal self to do but consent. Jesus revealed this at every turn. I can of mine own self do nothing. This was not a statement of weakness. It was the very source of his strength. Because he did not attempt to live his life, life lived him. Because he did not attempt to direct power, power expressed itself through him. And so we learn, slowly and gently, to practice this stillness, not by forcing silence, not by suppressing thought, not by disciplining the mind into obedience, but by letting go of the need to manage. When a thought arises, we do not chase it away. We do not wrestle with it. We simply do not follow it. We allow it to pass as clouds pass across the sky without believing that it governs the sky. In this stillness, there is no asking. Asking implies lack. Asking implies separation. Asking implies that God is elsewhere. Instead, there is recognition. Father, thou art here. All that thou hast is here. All that thou art is functioning now. This is prayer in its highest sense, not petition, but communion, not words, but awareness, not effort, but receptivity. Open thou mine eyes, that I may behold wondrous things out of thy law. We are not seeking new truth. We are awakening to what has always been true. And here, something remarkable occurs. When personal effort ceases, divine activity is felt. When the mind grows quiet, not by command but by consent, there is a sense of being carried. We may not feel peace as an emotion, but we feel steadiness. We may not feel joy, but we feel rightness. We sense that something has taken over, not dramatically, not audibly, but unmistakably. This is the point at which many become afraid and pull back. The personal sense says, if I let go completely, what will become of me? And the answer is simple. You will discover who you have always been. He that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. The life that is lost is the false sense of selfhood. The life that is found is eternal. Stillness is not inactivity. It is the highest form of activity. It is divine action unimpeded by human interference. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. That is not a metaphor. It is a law. When we hold our peace, God fights the battle. When we cease striving, harmony asserts itself. And so, in this moment, we practice, not dramatically, not forcefully, but quietly. We let go of trying to feel safe. We let go of trying to be calm. We let go of trying to understand. We simply rest. We listen without expectation. We wait without impatience. We trust without condition. Wait on the Lord. Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Waiting is not doing nothing. It is yielding everything. It is the stillness that allows God to be God in us, as us, and through us. And as we abide here even briefly, we discover that assurance begins to dawn. Not an assurance that shouts, but one that whispers. Not an excitement, but a quiet certainty. From this stillness arises something that cannot be manufactured and cannot be lost, the inner assurance that follows yielding. Now, we must understand something that is of great importance, for many have been misled at this point and have turned away prematurely. The assurance that follows yielding does not always come in the form the human sense expects. It is not necessarily accompanied by emotion, nor by a sense of relief, nor by any dramatic change in feeling, and yet it is unmistakable when it appears. Assurance is not excitement. Assurance is not enthusiasm. Assurance is not even happiness as the world understands it. Assurance is a quiet knowing, a settled awareness, a deep inner stability that does not depend upon conditions. It is the sense that something has been placed in God's hands and that those hands do not tremble. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. The Master did not say that his peace would always feel pleasant. He said it would be his peace. And the peace of Christ is not an emotion, it is a state of consciousness. It is the awareness of divine government. Many students make the mistake of watching themselves after prayer or meditation, asking, do I feel better? Is the anxiety gone? Am I calm now? But this watching is a return to self-management. It is the mind checking to see whether God has done the work properly. True assurance does not look at itself. It rests. When assurance is present, there is a subtle but unmistakable shift. The urgency disappears. The sense of pressure lifts. The need to figure things out subsides. You may still be aware of circumstances, still aware of responsibilities, still aware of sensations, but they no longer feel overwhelming. They no longer dominate consciousness. This is what Scripture means when it says, "Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee." Perfect peace is not the absence of activity. It is the absence of fear. It is the mind stayed, anchored, settled, resting not in thought, but in God. Often, assurance comes quietly, almost unnoticed. You may find that you stop rehearsing the problem. You may notice that you are no longer asking, what if? You may discover that the body has softened, not because you intended it to, but because fear has lost its fuel. Or you may notice nothing at all except that you are no longer trying. This is why we must not seek signs. Jesus warned against this. An evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. A sign would mean that we are still looking outward for evidence. Assurance is inward. It is consciousness itself bearing witness to truth. The Father does not announce his presence with sensation. He reveals himself with stability. He does not overwhelm the senses. He undergirds the being. When assurance has come, you do not feel the need to talk about it. You do not feel the need to defend it. You simply move forward, quietly, confidently, without strain. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. This is not poetry. It is not metaphor. It is a divine fact. And when this truth is accepted, not emotionally, but consciously, there is nothing left to fear. For what could threaten one who is ever with God? At this point, we begin to understand the difference between human comfort and divine assurance. Human comfort soothes the mind for a time. Divine assurance transforms the basis of living. Human comfort depends upon reassurance. Divine assurance stands alone. And yet, even this assurance must not be clutched. It must not be guarded. The moment we try to hold it, we lose it. The moment we say, I have found it, we have already stepped back into the personal sense. Assurance flows naturally from yielding, and it remains only as long as yielding remains. This is why our work is not to maintain assurance, but to return again and again to stillness. Not once a day, not in moments of crisis only, but as a way of living, a pause before action, a withdrawal before reaction, a silent acknowledgement before decision. As this becomes habitual, assurance becomes the atmosphere of our life. We no longer need to reassure ourselves. We no longer need to brace ourselves. We begin to live from a deeper place, from that consciousness in which God is not an idea, but an ever-present reality. And now, having tasted this assurance, we must learn how to live with it, not in retreat from the world, but in the midst of it. For stillness is not meant to remove us from life. It is meant to transform the way life is lived. Now we come to a point where many sincere students hesitate, for they ask within themselves, yes, this is beautiful while I am here, while I am quiet, while I am turned inward, but what about the world? What about responsibility, danger, uncertainty, human relationships, business, health, and all the pressures of daily living? And this question must be answered. For the truth we are speaking of is not meant for retreat. It is meant for living. The secret of living safely in what appears to be an unsafe world is this. We do not carry stillness into the world. We discover that the world is already within stillness. We do not take God with us into our activities. We recognize that God is already there before we arrive. Before they call, I will answer. And while they are yet speaking, I will hear. God does not follow us. God precedes us. When we rise from prayer or meditation and step into our day, we are not stepping out of the presence of God. We are stepping out of the awareness of it. And so the work is not to hold on to a feeling of peace, but to return again and again to recognition, not through strain, not through repetition, but through quiet acknowledgement. In the midst of activity, we learn the art of the inner pause. Before speaking, a moment of inward listening. Before reacting, a gentle withdrawal. Before decision, a silent Father, thy will be done. These pauses may be brief, only seconds, but they are sufficient. For it is not the length of time that matters, it is the shift of reliance. The world will continue to present appearances. There will still be headlines, still be demands, still be occasions that would once have stirred fear or anxiety. But now something has changed. We are no longer meeting these appearances as isolated individuals, armed only with human strength. We are meeting them from within the consciousness of divine presence. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. This is not a promise of dominance. It is a statement of fact. The power that governs life is not external. It is not political, economic, or physical. It is spiritual. And it is within you. As this is realized, fear begins to lose its immediacy. It may still appear, but it no longer commands. It no longer dictates behavior. It becomes something observed rather than obeyed. And this observation is not cold or detached. It is compassionate and calm. We do not fight fear. We outgrow it. There will be times when the old habits attempt to return. Times when you find yourself planning excessively, worrying unnecessarily, or reacting automatically. When this happens, do not condemn yourself. Condemnation is merely another form of self-absorption. Simply return. Return unto thy rest, O my soul, for the Lord hath dealt bountifully with thee. Living safely does not mean living without challenge. It means living without fear of challenge. It means knowing that whatever arises, there is a presence already present to meet it. When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. Notice again, we are not promised that we will avoid the waters, but that they will not overwhelm us. As this understanding deepens, a quiet confidence begins to mark our life. We do not rush. We do not strain. We do not feel driven. We act when action is required. We speak when speech is called for. And we rest when rest is appropriate. We are no longer living from the mind. We are living from the presence. And this presence does not isolate us from others. On the contrary, it makes us more available, more compassionate, more helpful. For when we are no longer consumed with protecting ourselves, we are free to be of service. Freely ye have received, freely give. What we give is not advice or effort, but the quiet radiation of peace. In this way, stillness becomes portable not as a practice we carry, but as a consciousness we live. It is no longer something we enter and leave. It becomes the ground of our being. And from this ground, life unfolds naturally, harmoniously, without fear. Yet even here, we must learn something further. There will be moments when stillness seems to vanish, when fear returns suddenly, when the mind feels crowded once more. And we must know how to meet these moments without discouragement. Now, let us speak very plainly and very honestly. For here, many sincere souls become discouraged without cause. There will be times inevitably when the stillness seems to disappear, when fear returns suddenly, when anxiety arises without warning, and when the mind feels once again crowded with thoughts. And when this happens, the human sense is quick to say, I have failed, or I have lost it, or I must begin all over again. But this is not true. Stillness is never lost. Only awareness of it fluctuates. The presence of God does not come and go. The Christ does not enter and depart. What changes is not reality, but our attention. We momentarily turn our gaze outward again, and the world seems to rush back in. Yet even then, the presence remains undisturbed, unmoved, untouched. Where shall I go from thy spirit? Or whither shall I flee from thy presence? There is no place to fall from God. There is no moment in which divine life ceases to be your life, and therefore, there is no reason for guilt, frustration, or self-judgment when stillness appears to be interrupted, the interruption is not failure, it is instruction. It shows us where we have once again assumed personal responsibility. It reveals where we have unconsciously taken the burden back upon ourselves. And this revelation is not meant to shame us, but to free us again. When fear returns, do not ask, "What did I do wrong?" Ask instead, quietly and without drama, "Where have I forgotten to rest in God?" And then do not answer that question with thought. Let the answer arise in silence. Often the return is simple: a gentle pause, a soft acknowledgement, "Father, thou art here." Or perhaps no words at all, only a turning inward, a letting go, a surrender without explanation. We must remember that the spiritual life is not a straight line. It is a deepening. Each time we return with greater humility, greater trust, and less personal will. Each interruption loosens our attachment to self-sufficiency. Each apparent setback carries within it the seed of greater surrender. Jesus did not rebuke his disciples for their fear. He questioned their belief. "Why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith?" Faith here does not mean belief in doctrine. It means reliance. It means where consciousness rests. Fear arises when reliance slips back onto the personal self. And so, when stillness is interrupted, we do not try to recover a state. We do not chase a feeling. We simply return to reliance. We let go of the belief that we must manage the interruption. We stop trying to correct ourselves. We rest. This is why gentleness is essential. Harsh discipline strengthens the ego. Gentleness dissolves it. The Father does not scold his children for stumbling. He lifts them. As a father pitieth his children, so the Lord pitieth them that fear him. For he knoweth our frame. He remembereth that we are dust. And in this remembrance, something beautiful unfolds. We begin to trust not our ability to remain still, but God's ability to remain present. We stop watching ourselves and begin resting in him. We stop measuring progress and begin yielding to grace. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, the interruptions grow fewer. Not because we have become better at practice, but because we have become less invested in control. The mind no longer panics when fear appears. The body no longer tightens in alarm. There is a deeper confidence at work now, and this confidence leads us into the next unfoldment, not a sudden change, not a dramatic awakening, but a gradual transformation of consciousness itself. A change so natural that one day we realize we are no longer living the way we once did. Now we must speak of what happens when this way of living is not practiced occasionally, not turned to in moments of distress alone, but quietly embraced as the underlying attitude of life. For the infinite way is not a method to be used. It is a consciousness to be lived. And when consciousness changes, experience must follow. This transformation does not occur suddenly. It does not announce itself. There is no moment when you awaken and say, "Now I am different." Rather, one day you discover that situations which once troubled you no longer have the same hold. Thoughts that once demanded attention now pass without invitation. Fears that once felt urgent now seem distant, unreal, almost childish. And you may not even know when this change took place. This is the nature of spiritual growth. It is organic. It unfolds as quietly as the dawn. First the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. No force is applied. No haste is required. Life reveals itself in order, and always according to divine law. As consciousness yields more consistently to God, the personal sense gradually loosens its grip. The need to defend, to justify, to explain, to plan excessively, all of this begins to fall away. Not because you decide to stop, but because it no longer feels necessary. You are no longer living from reaction, you are living from awareness. Paul described this transformation with profound simplicity. I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. This is not mysticism reserved for a few. It is the natural result of relinquishing the false sense of selfhood. The life you thought you were living dissolves into the life that has always been living you. In this new consciousness, problems still arise, but they do not dominate experience. They are met not with alarm, but with quiet expectancy. There is a knowing that whatever presents itself is already within the jurisdiction of God. He performeth that which concerneth me, and so the burden never settles upon the personal self. One of the clearest signs of this transformation is the absence of inner argument. You are no longer debating with yourself, questioning every decision, second-guessing every move. There is a simplicity now, a directness, a trust that does not need explanation. Another sign is the disappearance of spiritual ambition. You are no longer striving to be more spiritual, to attain higher states, to achieve enlightenment. These desires fade naturally, for you begin to realize that nothing needs to be attained. All that the Father hath is mine. Not will be mine, is mine. As this realization deepens, compassion increases. You no longer look upon others as problems to be fixed or judged. You see them as fellow travelers, each awakening in their own way, in their own time. You do not feel superior. You feel united. There is one body and one spirit. Fear of the future also loosens its hold. You do not know what tomorrow will bring, but you know who will be there, and that is enough. Take, therefore, no thought for the morrow, for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. The present moment becomes sufficient because God is present. This is not withdrawal from life. It is full participation without strain. You work, you serve, you love, you decide, but you are no longer the source. You are the instrument. And an instrument does not tire when the music is played through it. It resonates. Gradually, life takes on a different rhythm. No, there is less hurry, less urgency, less fear of missing something. There is a sense of being led rather than driven, guided rather than pushed, supported rather than strained. And all of this comes not because you have mastered a technique, but because you have consented to a truth. You have allowed God to be God in your consciousness. You have ceased trying to live your life and have discovered that life is living you. This is the fruitage of stillness, not passivity, but divine activity made visible, not isolation, but communion, not escape, but fulfillment. And from this place, we are ready for the final movement, not words, not teaching, not explanation, but simple abiding. And now we come to the place where words must gently fall away, for truth is not completed by explanation, it is completed by recognition. Everything that has been said has not been said to inform the mind, but to lead consciousness to a point of rest, to that inner abidance in which God reveals himself without words. At this point, there is nothing more to do, nothing more to understand, nothing more to attain. The work has already been done, not by us, but by the Spirit itself, It is finished, the Master said, not at the end of effort, but at the end of selfhood. Here we simply abide. We do not ask God for peace now. We do not seek safety. We do not attempt to hold stillness or preserve assurance. We rest in the truth that God is. And because God is, all is well. Be still and know. Know, not think, not analyze, not affirm, but know. Let the mind grow quiet without being commanded. Let the heart soften without being coaxed. Let the body be without instruction. There is no need to manage experience now. Presence is here. It has always been here. In this resting, you may notice thoughts drifting by. Let them pass. You may notice sensations arising. Let them be. Nothing that appears has authority here. Nothing that comes or goes can disturb what is eternal. Jesus Christ the same yesterday and today and forever. This is the abiding place, not a special state, not an altered condition, but the natural condition of being when the false sense of separation has been relinquished. Abide in me, and I in you. This is not effort. It is consent. Here, we are no longer living from the surface of life. We are living from the depth. From that depth, wisdom flows when needed. Action arises when required. Silence remains when nothing is required. Life becomes simple not because it lacks content, but because it lacks struggle. And so we close. Not by ending, but by remaining. Not by returning to the world, but by recognizing that the world is already within God. Carry nothing with you from this moment except one quiet assurance. You are not alone, you have never been alone, and you never will be alone. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. Let us rest here. You are already at the end of the teaching. What follows is not a new section, not an addition of ideas, but a final sealing in the manner. Joel himself often allowed a few quiet words that dissolve into rest rather than extend the discourse. I will therefore complete the ending, not by adding content, but by letting the teaching come fully to rest. There is nothing further to say. The truth has not been spoken into being. It has been recognized. What has been recognized does not need repetition, explanation, or defense. It only needs allowance. Where you are now, you are not trying to remember what was said. You are not trying to apply it. You are not trying to hold it. The infinite way is never carried forward by memory. It is lived by awareness. Remain, then, in this simple knowing. God is. And because God is, you are. And because God is your life, nothing can be added to you, and nothing can be taken from you. Let this be enough. Let the mind rest. Let the heart be still. Let the presence reveal itself without interruption. This is the rest wherewith ye may cause the weary to rest. And this is the refreshing. We do not conclude. We abide.